In this video, I'm going to discuss construction history. Construction history is a device in Maya that remembers the relationship of objects. For example, if you model something using a NURBS curve, the resulting surface will remember what curve was used to create it. If you update that curve, the model will follow. For example, here's a bowl that was made with the revolve tool in the NURBS curve. The curve is still there, so if I select it by itself, then go to the vertices and move the vertices, the bowl shape will update automatically. I notice construction history because if I select that bowl by itself as an object, it's green, but if I was to select the curve, the bowl is also selected indirectly but turns that purplish color. I can also tell the bowl has construction history if I go back and select that bowl as an object. And look in the channel box. In the channel box, under the word inputs, it says revolve 1. That is a construction node. That is a node created by the revolve tool when it was applied. Now you can delete construction history in several ways. For instance, I can delete that original curve, then the construction history will go away for that bowl. So I go back and select the curve by itself, hit the delete key, construction history goes away. I can tell that by selecting the bowl once again. It turns green, and the fact that in the channel box, there's no inputs. In other words, that revolve 1 input is gone. That construction node was deleted in that case. That's the first way. Now if I back up using the undo key, Control Z, I'll do Control Z until I get that curve back. There it is. Another way is to go through a menu. So I have my curve back, and I can see there's construction history once again because of the purplish color of the bowl, and because there's a node called revolve 1 in the channel box. Now there's construction history. I can go up to a menu and get rid of that. So the trick for that is to select this bowl as an object, go up to Edit, go to Delete by Type, History. So again, Edit, Delete by Type, History. And once again, I have the bowl selected. So if I apply that, construction history goes away. Now the advantage of using that menu is, although I've deleted the construction history on my bowl, my curve still exists. If I go and pick the curve by itself, it's still there. But you notice that when I select it, the bowl has no relationship to it any longer. In fact, I can move that curve or change its shape, and the bowl does not care any longer. So if you want to keep your source, for instance, your NURBS curve, you can use the Delete by Type History menu item. So I'm going to back up once again using Control Z. I want to talk about the nodes in more detail. So now I have my construction history back. I have my curve. You can see that there's construction history because of the color. Look in the channel box, and there's the revolve 1 node. Now, again, this is a node, so I can go into the outliner or the hypergraph to take a look at that. Let's use the hypergraph. I'm going to select the bowl once again as an object. Go to the Window menu. Go down the Hypergraph Connections. Now, before we've talked about hierarchy, and now we're going to use connections, hypergraph connections. Pull the hypergraph window down. And since the bowl was selected, it's going to frame up on that bowl. However, there's more than one node here. If I make this window larger, and I use my camera keys to dolly in, I can read the titles of these different nodes. The first node that's yellow right now and selected is just a revolved surface. That's what's selected in my view panel. It's actually the resulting bowl. However, there's also a node in the same view for the curve I used to apply the revolve tool in the first place. To the right of that is the actual revolve construction node. So this is a construction node right here. To the right of that is the shape node. Now that's also part of the bowl. What happens is anytime you create an object in Maya, whether it's through a primitive or through custom construction like this, every single surface actually has 2 nodes. The first node is a transform node. That's the node you use to move the object around. That's also the node that, inside the attribute editor, has all the transforms listed, like translate, rotate, and scale. The shape node, on the other hand, is a node that carries non-transform information, such as spans or information that has to do with the way the model is constructed. Later on, we'll get to the shape nodes of other things in Maya like lights, where you can see other non-transform options like intensity or shadow or whatnot. We'll talk more about shapes down the road. Just for now, remember that any given surface has two nodes, the transform node and the shape node. And in fact, you can tell which one the shape node is because it has the word shape right there on the node, as opposed to the transform node, which simply has the name of the object, in this case revolved surface 1. And at the very end of this chain is what's called the initial shading group node, and that's just a default node that Maya gives you so the object can be shaded or rendered. Now you notice the transform node's by itself over here on the left, yet these other ones are linked, and this is a hierarchy. It's not a group node that you would make yourself, but it is a hierarchy nonetheless. You'll see that the curve shape node has an arrow going towards the revolve node, going towards the revolve surface shape node, going towards the initial shading group node. What that means is information is flowing in a certain direction, and actually the arrows indicate that. So what this means is if the arrows are going left to right is that the nodes on the left are passing information to the nodes on the right. So the curve shape node is supplying information to the revolve construction node. In other words, the curve has to give information to the revolve tool so the tool can be applied. And when that happens, the revolve construction history node is created. And that result is then passed on to the shape node, which defines the construction of that shape. In other words, how many spans and whatnot. So the options of the revolve tool are passed on to the shape node. And that resulting shape, which does have a relationship to the transform node, indirectly, however, information from that surface shape node is then passed on to the initial shading group node, so it can be smooth shaded or rendered. Now, I know that's a bit of a tongue twister there in terms of remembering all those nodes, but the short of it is that there is construction history right there. And this construction history is named after the tool, so you can definitely find it. If you did a revolve, look for the revolve node. Now, if you want to, you can actually delete that node right here in the hypergraph. So I can select that revolve node and hit the delete key on my keyboard. That will destroy my construction history. I still have some nodes left over. I still have my original curve shape. Because it's not deleted, it's just freed up. I have my revolve surface transform node. I have my revolve surface shape node. Again, the shape and the transform nodes are indirectly related. You have to have both those to make that surface. And you have your initial shading group node, which is supplied by Maya. So construction history is gone. Now, if I was to Control-Z to back up, so I have my original hierarchy here. Now, if I was to go back to my delete by type history, I'd get the same result. So if I pick my surface in the view panel, go up to Edit, Delete by Type, History, and select that, that automatically gets rid of that construction history node for me. So I wind up with the same nodes. Now in this case, my curve node is hidden. It's still there. It just was hidden. So if I go back to my view panel and select my curve, it's still there. It just happens to be out of the view of the hypergraph in that situation, but it's not destroyed. So again, whether you delete construction history node by hand in the hypergraph or use Edit, Delete by Type, History, you get the same result. If I close this window now, we can see I have no history because once again, if I select that bowl shape, there's no inputs down here, so that revolve node is gone. Now, construction history is provided for you automatically every time you build something, unless you turn off a button. If you go up to the top of the status line, there's a construction on-off button. It has a little picture of a clock with a little piece of paper. It's activated by default, but if you deselect that, so there's a little X on top of that icon, then whenever you build something, there'll be no construction history. In other words, if you were to do a revolve, you wind up with a revolved surface, but the surface would have no relationship to that original curve. The curve would be there, the surface would be there, but they're indifferent to each other. In general, it's a good idea to leave that construction history on. You can always delete it manually, as I described in this video.